Okay, here we have the fully assembled version of our sheet metal tank. We'll give you a quick view of it as it stands fully assembled now, and then break the components down to show a more detailed view. All of our mates have restrictions on them that would make sense for a real tank. So as you can see here, the cannon moves up and down. And if we zoom in here, you can see the hatch that would let someone in and out of the tank, open and close. As well, we have a little peephole here that someone could open and close inside the tank. And the turret on the top for a secondary gunner. And if you move it, you can pivot as well as move up and down. And if we go to the lights, you can see they move up and down as well as they pivot side to side. And if we go here and float this, you can see that the actual tank top as well rotates. Okay, here is the exploded view of our tank. So as you can see, the top is coming off, and the components are separating into individual things. Here's the turret on top. And this hatch never really stayed straight even though we limited it. So here are the side panels. You can put grenades or flares in there or something of the sort. And as we move down here, we'll see the wheels come off. And finally the tank cannon. And the lights. Okay, here we have our engine. As you can see, the cylinder heads are currently coming off. And the inner workings of the engine. Here are the pistons and the crankshaft. And these are the connecting rods. And here it comes back together. And there's our engine. Okay, here we have the rear gear wheel of the tank. All the bolts were made independently, and the actual gear of the wheel itself was made by us. Okay, here we have the bullet of the top-mounted tank turret, and it is currently unfolded. And if I just start undoing these folds, you'll see a bullet slowly come together. And there's the bullet. Okay, here we have our cannon bullet as it is currently unfolded. And if I'll go ahead and just undo these folds, you will see the cannon bullet slowly start to come together. And here we are, cannon bolt. Alright, so here we have our turret unfolded right now. And if I'll just go ahead and undo this, you'll see it come back together as the turret. Alright, here we have our engine and rear drive wheel of the tank. This is meant to simulate power transfer from the engine to the rear drive wheel, which in turn will turn these threads. So as we scroll in on the transmission here, you can see it's currently in drive. We'll see this gear turning the axle, and in turn turning the wheel. And if we shift it to neutral, there'll be no contact here, and therefore there'll be no power transfer. And then when we turn it to reverse, further, we have added this extra gear here, which will reverse the motion, therefore making the threads go backwards. This belt here is designed to simulate the power transfer from the engine to the transmission. Alright, here we have our cylinder heads coming off our engine. This is to show you how the pistons move while we spin the engine and move the transmission. Here we have our transmission set to drive. We will now simulate the motion created by turning the flywheel on the engine. So here we are. As you can see, the pistons are moving, the gear wheel is moving, and that would be spinning the treads. Alright, I'm now going to move the shifter from drive to neutral. And as you can see, it disengages this gear from the gear on the axle. And if I spin the flywheel, you can see that neither the axle nor the gear wheel move anymore. Alright, I'm now going to move the shifter from neutral to reverse. And as you can see, this gear will now engage with the reverse gears on the axle. And If I spin the engine the same direction as normal, you can see that the gear wheel on the back of the treads actually moves in the opposite direction. So as you can see here, this is the rear gear wheel and the treads. So if I bring the treads in contact with the gear wheel, you can see it starts to spin and it tracks the treads all the way around. This would of course be if it was in drive. And if you were to switch it into reverse, you would see the opposite effect where the treads follow back down the gear wheel. And here's the exploded view of our tank, and we will now collapse it back in. The wheel's coming back on, and as the head begins to reassemble, and the body comes back together, and there is our tank.